It's an amazing day in the dome, and this is Steve Jacobson, and I want to show you what's growing on in my greenhouse. And it looks a lot different than the last one that I've actually taken, because it was just getting started. I was just planting things, and now I've got a plethora of stuff that is growing. So I'm going to show you around the greenhouse and just show you what's going on in some of the beds. Okay, so here I have my squash bed, and it's about 2.5 feet high here, so it's a good height to be able to work on the squash. And the squash looks so much different than the last time that this was recorded, because I had just started planting this stuff. But anyway, it's looking pretty good. The leaves are good size, and there are actually some great squash flowers and stuff that are coming out. I don't know if you can see this, but yeah, it's going to produce a lot of squash, I think. Okay, so this bed was originally moved from the main garden, and it has a good depth here to actually put different types of soil in. And I also, at the very bottom of this bed, I put all kinds of sticks and leaves and grass and that types of things, so that the worms could get in there and really have a field day with enriching the soil. So one thing you might notice is that I have these sticks right here, and I'm going to try to train the squash up the stick. So I've seen videos of Elliot Coleman in Maine, and what he actually did was slowly wrap the squash plant around the stick, and thereby you could like get more going vertical, and it would work out quite well. My sticks may not be tall enough, so I may have to amend them in the future. Okay, here is my scarlet runner bean bed in the background, and it's got the strings that are going all the way up, and they are doing pretty good right now. I would say that they're reaching about 2 feet high for most of them, and they should be actually forming a bunch of scarlet runner beans, and I'm really excited about that. Right in here I actually have some tomatillos, 2 tomatillos that a friend gave me, and yeah, they're growing really quite well. In the front there is arugula, and this arugula really rocks here. I've had some in salads already, and arugula is one of my favorite things because it can go all the way until the end of the summer and into fall and do so incredibly well. So you just keep cutting it back and you keep getting nice arugula greens, unlike some of the other things like cilantro. And another quick view of the scarlet runner beans as they are starting to climb up. So one of my favorite things right here, I had mentioned in the last video, was the Jenny Kiwi. And the Jenny Kiwi is unique just because it's surviving in an area that normally wouldn't be able to handle kiwi, but Jenny Kiwi has been bred to have full-size kiwis and produce really well. This is going up in its 2nd year, and I would say that next year is going to produce quite a few kiwis. And a smaller one right here, not sure why it's not doing quite as good, but it is starting to actually climb up as well, just like this one is. Alright, my kale bed is doing really well, and I'm going to have to zoom in on some of these really large leaves. I actually have one that is quite purple. These were a mixture of some of the kale seeds that I actually got from this guy out in California. So anyway, they are growing really big, and I love how these taste. I've had a few of them, and I've made some kale chips and that stuff out of it, so it has been really great. Just a good close up here, I can show you how big the leaves are actually starting to get. They're supposed to get a lot bigger than this, but I would have to say this is doing really well. And looking down in here, these are getting pretty high. I would say it's getting about 2.5 feet to 3 feet high. So this was the kale that came up second year, and whenever that starts to happen, you get a lot of tasty little kale leaves, and it actually produces this second year small leaf batch of leaves that are really tasty. And when you look in here, this whole thing I just cut down, it has flowers all over it, so it's actually going to seed. So it's a good way of getting seeds so that you can use them for the following years. Okay, so over here we actually have some cilantro, and the cilantro is actually going to seed. So it's producing a ton of flowers here, and I'll zoom in on them for you. It actually will get a whole lot of flowers, followed by those little tiny seeds, which would then be coriander. So these are pretty great. Alright, so here's the coriander flowers, and they're growing really quite well here. So I'm going to get a ton of these seeds. Now, right here, I'm just going to try to zoom in on this. There are little tiny seeds. If I can get my hands over here. Alright, so there are these little tiny seeds, and those will be hardening up and turning into the actual coriander. My lettuce bed is doing pretty well, and some of the lettuce is just slightly bitter, but a lot of it is still quite sweet. So I did quite the mix of red and also like rose colored and green, and it's actually coming up really pretty good. So I'm so excited about that, and I cannot wait to see what else I'm going to plant in here when this lettuce is over. So here we are right next to the goji berry, and it is taking off this year. Oh my god, it is almost, well, it is taller than me. So this is going to produce hopefully a ton of berries, and though I don't really like the taste of the berries too much, they are really amazing for your health. So that's one of the reasons why I grow them, and I've been doing it for the last few years, and it is looking pretty cool. So I am definitely going to be doing goji berries for the long haul in the next few years, and trying to replicate the goji berries so that I can give it to other people as well. Okay, so here I am right on the tub here, looking at the tomato plants, and the tomato plants are climbing right up, and I've been wrapping them around the string, so it's actually working pretty good here. And what I'm going to be doing is kind of thumping these just in case they're not getting enough pollination. You can just kind of like tap it, and the flowers that are actually on here, you can't really see from where you are probably, but there are a lot of flowers. It actually will help pollinate it. So that's one of the things that you can actually do for tomatoes, especially if they're under covering like this. In my small greenhouse, I did that as well, and just kind of tapped every tomato plant, and I got a really stellar production for it. So I was really excited about that, and last year I just had a ton of tomatoes. I'm doing a lot of San Marzano tomatoes because they're really good for sauce, and I have maybe about 10 or 15 of those tomatoes. So I am pretty psyched that is happening. Alright, so I'm sitting on this wooden bench that we carved out of a big cedar tree, and it actually rocks a little bit, so I gotta fix this. But anyway, I started off a bunch of Mexican sunflowers here, and I have a few that are larger than this, but this is another tray that I'm going to divide up and give to some other people as well. If you've never grown Mexican sunflowers, make sure that you get some seeds next year or hunt some down soon, because these are amazing. They get sometimes about 7 feet high. They're such good growers. They have such amazing bright orange flowers, and they are really pretty good. So I will be showcasing some of these as they grow, and I've put a few in the greenhouse, and that'll be on future episodes. But man, put them in any garden and people will say, what the heck is that? Not a lot of people know about them, but they sell them in packets every year. So okay, so this is something that deserves to be talked about. It's a mulberry tree that is a miniature mulberry tree, and I saw it from one of these episodes that's out in Holyoke, Mass, and the guys that actually run this farm area that's right around the house, they have really good mulberry bushes there that they bought, and they were the dwarf mulberries. So I have 2 of these, but I sent away for an even bigger one because I'm a little bit more impatient than that. Okay, so I have sweet Italian peppers here, and these are growing pretty good. So they're starting to get some good flowers on them. They're getting some good height, and hopefully they are going to grow high enough to actually compete with some of the other things that I put in this bed. Here's a nice row of eggplant, and the eggplant looks like it's getting nice and tall here, and nice woody stems. And I actually have an eggplant that's about ready to flower and form an eggplant, so I'm really excited about that. Quick view at some of the flowers I'm getting for the squash, and I want to stuff some of those because they're quite good to do that with. Alright, we're getting some good flowers in this bed, and I have some beefsteak that are actually in here, and they're just so meaty in structure. The types of vines that they have are really thick. And these small babies here, they do not look like much, but it's called a giant Marconi pepper, and these plants have the capacity to get up about 3 feet high, and they just have huge sweet peppers that almost don't look real. They're so perfect when they start growing. So if you've never tried big Marconi peppers or giant Marconi peppers, you should actually try these. They are like stellar. They're awesome. Just a quick close-up of the Mexican sunflowers. They're pretty cool when they get big, and I just want to show you the basil in here. It's suddenly just taken off, and I'm going to have a lot of things made with basil this summer, and I love basil leaves right on slices of fresh tomatoes. They can be so awesome. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you got a little bit out of it, and I will show several episodes coming up on what is actually going on in the greenhouse. Whether it's good or bad, it's always good to find out what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong, and totally open to any type of suggestions that you have. And thanks so much for watching this. This has been an episode of True Health, and I hope to see you in the future. And don't hesitate to hit like and subscribe.